Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out. Today we're talking with Dennis Lyons with Tac Med Solutions, and he was a Special Operations Combat Medic in the Army, and he is the subject matter expert that's going to be talking to us about the SOF-T. This is one of the products that I've used in combat. I've seen it work, and it's kind of wild for me to be talking with the people that actually make these products. I remember after I had applied all these tourniquets and looking at them, I would wonder about who it was that made these and why, and now I get to get the word from the people who actually do. So this is kind of a big deal for me. So Dennis, you want to walk us through the SOF-T? And
Yeah. So SOF-T's great tourniquet, been around since 2003-ish, made by our founder and co-chairman, Ross Johnson. And the evolution of tourniquets, Ross always talks about, the early days of the conflict. We were still using devices from World War II, Korea, Vietnam era, that were basically straps with buckles on them. They weren't effective. There was no mechanical advantage. So that was around the time early in the war on terror, shortly after 9/11. You saw these commercially available tourniquets kind of starting to come on the market. Back in the course at Fort Bragg, we were still improvising them. At that time, it was a stick or a dowel with a cravat and a ring on it, and it was very effective. But there were better options available. But that's how we went into that conflict, was basically with what we were using in the Vietnam era.
so I get a lot of questions of like, why do I need to carry a tourniquet? Wouldn't a belt just work? Or why should they just not try to improvise their own tourniquet on the spot?
So if you look at improvised tourniquets, they're very difficult. And people always ask me, what is the best tourniquet on the market? And my answer is the best tourniquet on the market is the one that you train with and you're prepared to use every day. So while a belt could be effective, it lacks mechanical advantage, and you shouldn't rely on that. Just like you shouldn't rely on sticks, you shouldn't rely on having cravats around or just pieces of material. They're relatively inexpensive, low cube, low weight, and they are a life-saving device. With a lot of the other devices out there, improvise all day, because are they really life-saving? They're more of comfort devices. For life-saving devices, commercially available tourniquet from the manufacturer is, in my opinion, the way to go.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. And so what is some of the background that you have with this tourniquet? How did this get developed?
So Ross deployed with these, and he tells the great story about one night he was on radio watch and he just started sketching up an idea, and then he came back and started making them, and that's basically the tourniquet that you have today. And the tourniquet that Ross sketched up in that night on radio watch, evolution, and you look at the evolution. I love talking about the evolution of the products in this market space, but if you look at the evolution and kind of the design of the device, it's basically the same thing he designed that night on radio watch. There's a fixed base, and the compression band routes through the base, and you have a windlass for mechanical advantage and a tri-ring as a connecting device. The early designs of it, if you look at the buckle on the early designs of the SOF-T, they came off, they looked very familiar to the old Vietnam era non-pneumatic tourniquets that we all complained about. And they also had some commonalities with there was like a weapon sling that has something very similar. And so that, being that open loop design, being able to go around trap limbs, that was the next evolution of the tourniquet. And ever since that, this tourniquet hasn't really changed. Still have the compression band going through the base. You still have an open loop design with the buckle. The windlass on the soft tourniquet has always been aluminum in design. Some of the early ones were shorter, wider. And then, as we go to design these, we looked for feedback from the marketplace from the other windlass designs to this windlass design, and it was split right down the road in the middle. So we went with this design, but you'll notice some commonalities. The beveled end on our windlass is the same beveled end you see. It's kind of like the thing for the SOF-T. If anybody looks at the SOF-T, a real identifying feature is the shape of the end of the windlass. And it's designed specifically to go inside the track and then also inside the tri-ring, which is your definitive securing device. So with the Gen 4 was the addition of the track, which is the tourniquet retention assistance clip. So, and it's meant as just a temporary. So you turn your windlass. If you get tired or you need to change your hand position, you can let it rest there. Not meant to be a definitive securing device. The tri-ring is the way to secure it definitively. But, you know, and to see some other things evolve that don't really have kind of they don't function, or they don't impact the overall function of the tourniquet, meaning the buckle. We went to a polymer buckle.
I was going to ask about that. Do you have any idea what the weight reduction is? Because I could notice a weight reduction.
Yeah, so significant weight reduction, but also increased strength. We basically almost, I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but significant increase in strength. And the other thing you get with the polymer buckle is it flows real nicely with this new webbing that we have. And this new webbing has a reduced stretch over time. So all nylon stretches over time. You put it on, you put it under force. It's not going to be as tight in 5 minutes as it was when you initially applied it. So this webbing is also specifically designed to reduce that stretch coefficient over time. But in combination with the buckle, it flows really, really smoothly. And it really fixed some of those complaints that people had about the one-handed application being difficult. You see how smoothly and easy that went on. So those two things have really kind of helped the device become better. The other thing that we did on this new version on the SOF-T Tourniquet was we put a slack wedge indicator in there. And you know, you've heard a lot of discussion online and everywhere about, you know, the most important part of using a windlass or a mechanical advantage-based tourniquet is you got to have all the slack out before you start turning your windlass or ratcheting your ratchets, because you'll eventually run out of room or on the ratchet, or you'll tighten and you won't get any more mechanical advantage from the windlass. So we put that in there, and the concept is when you put that on, and as you go to tighten down, you're going to see that red stitching disappear. And so once that red stitching disappears, you're ready to start turning your windlass. So that's kind of those are kind of the improvements and upgrades to the new SOF-T Tourniquet.
There's a question that I've had. I've had somebody ask me before, you know, like one of the things I'll say about the cat tourniquet is that because of it's got the hook and loop design, and also, you know, you stretching the material over and over again degrades the material after a while. So it's generally considered to be a one-time use item. You don't really want to train with the tourniquet that you are you're going to trust to save your life. Is that the same type of problem with the SOF-T, or can you train with the one that you have?
So you can train with it limited use. You know, all of these all tourniquets are designed as one-time use devices. Because ours doesn't really have anything that's going to wear out quickly, you can get away with using it. We do make a blue trainer, but it's generally the exact same components. So while you can use this multiple times for actual patient application, getting up to the tension that's required to stop the flow of blood, we recommend a one-time use.
Okay.
But it is very durable. There's no Velcro to wear out, and that is you know, every tourniquet, and I say again, the best tourniquet on the market is the one that you've bought and you're familiar with and that you've trained with. So, you know, there are just some slight differences in design with this one over the other windlass tourniquets or even the ratchet-based tourniquets. All very effective. Ours is just a little bit different. We pack up a little smaller. We have some other advantages as well, but yeah, there's just some slight differences.
Okay, well that kind of leads us right into our next topic of pros and cons.
Yeah, so yeah, the pros behind this is everything is rugged and durable. You know, we've had a lot of questions about why'd you go away from the metal buckle, And since we're talking some concealed carry, or I've always asked people, we're using a same or similar polymer that they're using on most of the lower on a lot of pistols, right? So if it's good enough for your pistol, would you use it on a tourniquet? And like I said, we've got a higher breaking strength on this polymer buckle than we do on our old flat aluminum and our steel buckle. So some people have had some trouble wrapping their heads around that, but we've been producing this now for a year, and we've had no issues with the buckle. So,
and the purpose of the buckle?
Oh, the buckle is the open loop design. So, this gives you, obviously not for one-handed application. If you're using the buckle, it's more than likely a two-handed application unless you've really, really trained with this. But it's a two-handed application. But for trapped limbs, it's, so if your limb is trapped under something, it's much easier. And the buckle's big enough that it doesn't require any fine motor skills, because we know when you're under stress, under fire, your fine motor skills go away.
And a trapped limb is one of the things you'll see in like car accidents a lot. So someone will be bleeding really badly, but their arm or leg will be trapped in the vehicle. You'll still need to stop that bleeding until the fire department can get there to cut them out. And that's how you'll get that tourniquet applied, is by unclipping the buckle.
Yeah, so, and we'll talk about that when we go over application, but so that, and a lot of industrial accidents too. So industrial and farm, believe it or not. So we see a lot of those trapped limbs. So that gives you the ability to do that without having to unroute the webbing through the buckle. And our tourniquet is designed, if you're used to the closed loop systems where you have to route the buckle through, or the webbing through the buckle, a lot of times what we'll see is people want to unroute this webbing through the buckle. With most of these closed loop design tourniquets, there's no need. You can undo and go back in. You should never have to unroute your webbing through your buckle. Other pros and cons is, we've got a temporary securing means. So like I said, if, we've heard a lot about hand strength being, not so much in the military market, but in the civilian market, about hand strength being an issue when you're talking tourniquet application. So what we did is we got the tourniquet retention assistance clip. So as you start turning, if either your hands get fatigued or they're in an odd position, like in this position right here, I may not be able to transition my hand to the other side, especially if I'm under stress or I'm just in a bad position. What I can do is I can leave my windlass there, reposition my hand, and finish my turn. So that's the point of the retention, the tourniquet retention assistance clip. And then once you're done, you can secure in the tri-ring. So yeah, so that's a pretty cool feature that's kind of unique. I mean, any of the windlass, because that is one of the issues with a windlass tourniquet. They are very effective, but you basically have 180 degrees that you have to stick that in there. So if you need to stop, relax, get a break, you can do it with that piece. So one other pro of the SOF-T is the way it's designed and constructed. There's multiple ways to fold it based on your mission needs. I've seen people wear it as a belt. I've seen people single fold and fold flat. I've seen them fold it wider. So when their platform they're carrying is longer, it allows them to get it more flat and low profile, similar to that. So there's the nice thing is there's so many ways, and in all of those configurations, it employs exactly the same, with a loop, free running end to the inside, and tighten. So that's the nice thing. Now on the cons, it has some of the same cons as all the other tourniquets. It requires end user input. I can't just throw it at somebody and it puts on. You have to be trained. You have to be familiar with the device you're using, and that's common to all of these. So
okay, all right. So how would you have this staged if it was you running it in your kit?
So the first thing I would do is we produce these shipped. They're wrapped in plastic with the instructions for use on the outside, or with the instructions for use. The first thing I would do was remove the plastic and look at the instructions for use, just to make sure you know how to use the tourniquet. From there, the tourniquet comes out, it's wrapped in two rubber bands that have really good life. So depending on how you're carrying it and what your mission is, that's going to dictate how you fold it, where it's going to go. Some people have it in duty belt, Kydex type duty belt holsters. Some people have them in pouches, just a regular tourniquet pouch. Some people put them inside of their IFAK, outside of their IFAK. Some of the rules of thumb to carrying tourniquets is carry it to where you can get to it with both hands. I've seen, so I like the reserve parachute thing where, we'll talk static line reserve parachutes, where I want to be able to pull my reserve with either right or left hand. So really, center line on the body is somewhere where I want to keep my tourniquet. If it's over here on my duty belt, I may have trouble getting to it here. For a while, there was we were putting them, you saw this deployed overseas a lot. Everybody had them in their shoulder pockets. And those devices were designed to be one-handed. And just with one simple uniform decision, we made our one-handed tourniquet now no longer a one-handed tourniquet. Especially if this hand is gone, I can't get to that tourniquet anymore. Or if this hand is gone, I'm going to have trouble getting to that tourniquet. So how you're going to carry it, center line on the body, or where you can get to it. If it's on your body, on the center line that I can get to it. And if it's not in your body, I just like to say it's protected but available. All nylon degrades over time in the environment. And although our tourniquet will last a long time, I still like to have my tourniquets at least covered. And then I inspect them.
What would be your recommendation on, like, say somebody is wearing it on their duty belt, like how long should it be before they change that out for something else?
Yeah, so real important to just do a visual inspection. Just like we would do in the military, we did visual inspection on nylon components all the time. And if you start seeing the wear in any of the nylon components, or any fading or cracking in any of the nylon components, and even though the nylon components on this are generally all low pressure, meaning the track isn't a high pressure interface quite like the buckle. So these are nylon, so they stand up to enough pressure, way more than you'll ever have on a Winless, pushing outward. And then the buckle, which is polymer, just inspect, make sure there's no fading, cracking, things like that. So the way you would inspect any nylon type based product, like your aid bag. If your aid bag is exposed to UV and all the time and it's all frayed on the outside and the zippers are broken, you're either going to fix it or you're going to get another aid bag. So your tourniquet's the same way. The nice thing is the tourniquets are so low cost, you can get another one.
Right.
So.
Okay, I like that a lot. So you want to make sure that you're taking it out of the plastic. Did we already say that? Yeah. Yeah, making sure you get it out of the plastic is essential, because this is just one extra step that you're going to be using to get this applied. So getting it out and making sure that you know what you're doing with it, because you got to practice with it.
And I'm a little bit of a simpleton. We can go off script for a second, but this is one of the funniest things. I fully agree with it being out of the plastic. I fully agree with it being out of the plastic. But as SOF medics, we did PT for years. We trained how to, break open locks and doors. I can open a 2 mil poly bag pretty quick. So yeah, it is true. We do want to have it out of the plastic, but if you make a big deal about it being out of the plastic, I'll probably make fun of you.
Oops.
No.
All right, so pros and cons, staging, and then I think application. I think we're ready to go.
Yeah. So let's talk application. So when I stage the tourniquet, and this is just my personal preference, I like to have the tourniquet staged roughly about the size of my limb, of the limb that I'm going to be using for a one-handed application. Most likely, if I'm going to put this on my legs, it's not going to be a one-handed application. My one-handed application is going to be up around my arm. unless it's been a really, really bad day. So this, I kind of keep my tourniquet staged about yay big. You know, it could probably fit around my thigh, but it's big enough to where I can get my hand in pretty easily, right? So, and the other reason I like to do that is because it just makes it that much easier to pull through. So once I get it there, it's a nice smooth pulling down. If we have too much slack in this, if we have too much slack and I don't have anybody with arms that big on my team or around me, one of the things that happens is now I've got to pull that slack out. So then it's going to take me 2 or 3, and this isn't a bad technique of just, you know, kind of running it down, but just by staging it at a good reasonable depth, you'll be able to go very quickly on an arm or even a leg at that. The nice thing is with the new polymer buckle and the new material and the compression band, it flows real smoothly. So no problem with excess friction when you're doing the one-handed or you're just trying to create more room in the buckle.
I like how easily it slides through the buckle there. It's like just glides through.
Yeah, when our materials guy showed us, the first time the material guy showed me the polymer buckle and the new webbing, I got really excited. That was a true game changer for the soft tourniquet, the soft tourniquet or the Tac Med tourniquet line. Was the combination of those two materials really took this device to the next level. So
I liked if you could show them that little technique where you pull it back around, because that's one of the problems that people have is having the Winless too far on their tricep.
Yeah, and this really goes into, you know, simplifying the way we teach tactical medicine. I really like to just teach one way to do everything, and one of the first is having that free running end or the slack towards the center line of the body. You know, we as humans, we have a lot of strength pulling across our body, right? So I can get this thing nice and tight. My slack wedge indicator, when I pull back over into my workspace, which is my next step, my slack wedge indicator is gone. You know, and the reason we do that is because if I switch it the other way, most humans, and we design these tourniquets not for the soft medics who's been doing this forever. Yeah, we use them and we love them, but I should be able to make a tourniquet out of anything. If I'm as good as everybody says that the soft medic is, we should be able to make tourniquets. We make these for people who have no training, and we want to make it even simpler for them. So by having that windlass to the outside, it gets really difficult to pull across the body for some people. I'm almost forced to pull it down because of just the way the body's kind of constructed. So by putting that free running into the center, I'm pulling with mechanical advantage that my body gives me. And then from there, pull that windlass into the workspace so I can see it, I can visualize my slack wedge indicator, and I also have maximum strength and dexterity to manipulate my windlass. So it's a good technique, you know, and I like that technique just for everyday stuff. There's some school of thoughts where we would do a buddy assist. You know, you can put the free running end to the outside, but I always ask people, you know, what if this is a mass casualty situation and the tourniquet loosens, because all tourniquets, all nylon will stretch over time. And these techniques aren't just for the soft tourniquet. They're for any windlass-based tourniquet for that matter. But if your tourniquet stretches over time or loosens, because tourniquets aren't the set and forget device. We have to reassess every time we move. You know, every certain period of time when we do patient handoffs, we're constantly reassessing the effectiveness of our devices. So one of the ways that we can do that, and if we're in a mass casualty situation where I have 3, 4, 5, 6 casualties, or there's chaos all around me, I may not be able to have eyes on that tourniquet all the time. So if we put that tourniquet on and it's to the inside and I push all the working components to the outside, if that person has to reassess their own device to see if it's working or not, they may not be able to get to it in that. So this is really designed more for, you know, it's the same way. So now we're teaching one way to apply the tourniquet, one technique, and less confusion for that end user.
Right.
So,
Love it.
so let's talk about the two-handed application using the buckle. We'll just say that his arm is entrapped in something. So what I'll do is I just wrap around, same thing. I put the free running end to the middle in case he has to manipulate this later, right? And in general, in the immediate phase, I want to place this high and tight. And in theory, I'd like to have it directly on the skin. But in the immediate phase, high and tight. Because all I know is that bleeding's here, but I may not know where the vessel's injured. So immediately, high and tight. You're never wrong doing that. Tighten your windlass and secure. If later, and we're going to talk about tourniquet conversion or what happens later if our evacuation times are long, we're going to talk about what we can do. But in general, so that immediate high and tight is right. Later, if we get to reassess this, we generally want to go 2 to 4 inches above the wound, not on a joint. And so we'd go somewhere closer down here. Let's say he's injured here, but I don't want it on the joint. I can go 2 to 4 inches above the wound and then tighten it down and make sure my bleeding stops. I wouldn't take this tourniquet off. I'd have a second tourniquet in place, replace it, put it on the skin, and then loosen this tourniquet, make sure that it's effective.
Okay.
So I think that's about it.
I know I've learned a lot. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about the SOF-T, so hopefully that's beneficial to you guys out there. So thanks for hanging out and checking out this video on the SOF-T. This is Dennis Lyons. He's with Tac Med Solutions. And in the next video, we're going to talk about one of my favorite products, is the HemCon Kaito Gauze Elias bandage. I think this is a fantastic product. We're going to talk about that next in the next video. So hang out for that. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. That's a free way to support the channel. Help me to keep these videos coming out to you. Head over to the mountainmanmedical.com website where you can buy the SOF-T and any of the products on the table here, and check out our Yellowstone and Wind River trauma kits and be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you. I'll catch you guys in the next one.